Sometimes in life the people you love most can look you straight in the eyes and tell you that you are the very thing standing in the way of their happiness, and in that moment it feels like the ground beneath you disappears. That is exactly what happened to me after 12 years of marriage. One evening, while sitting at our worn-out oak dining table, my wife suddenly confessed in a voice that trembled between anger and exhaustion, "You're holding me back from my dreams." Those words hit me harder than any blow I'd ever taken. It wasn't just a complaint, it was a verdict, a statement that everything I had done to build a life with her was now seen as chains, not love. And I want you to stay with me until the very end of this story, because what unfolded after that night will leave you questioning what true love, sacrifice, and freedom really mean. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss powerful life stories like this one, because what I'm about to share is not just about heartbreak, it's about transformation, letting go, and rediscovering yourself when the person you trusted most decides to walk a different path. That night, after she said those words, I sat there frozen, staring at the woman I thought I knew better than anyone else. I remembered how we had met back in college, two dreamers with empty pockets but endless hope. She used to tell me that I gave her strength, that I was her anchor in the storm. But now, after a dozen years of living together, raising two kids, and building a modest but stable home, I had somehow become the cage she wanted to escape from. My first instinct was to argue, to remind her of the sacrifices I had made working late nights, taking extra shifts, giving up on my own ambitions so she could chase hers. But when I looked into her eyes, I saw no room for argument. I saw a woman already halfway gone, her heart standing at the door even if her body was still sitting across from me. And in that moment, I made the hardest decision of my life. I didn't beg, I didn't fight, I didn't list the years of loyalty and devotion. Instead, I quietly whispered, "Then I'll set you free." Those words tasted like ashes in my mouth, but they were the only thing I could give her that still resembled love. She blinked, surprised, as if she expected me to explode or cry. But I didn't. I just stood up, walked into the kitchen, and let the silence swallow the rest of the night. Over the next few weeks, I lived in a blur. I watched as she began packing her dreams into suitcases, literally and metaphorically. She quit her job, applied for programs abroad, and surrounded herself with people who fueled her vision of a life unbound by family responsibilities. Our children were confused, asking questions I struggled to answer. Why does Mom want to go? Did we do something wrong? And every time, I forced a smile and told them, no, she just wants to follow her dreams. Inside, though, I was breaking piece by piece. But here's the thing, sometimes losing someone doesn't mean losing yourself. Sometimes, it forces you to finally remember the dreams you buried under years of compromise. And little did I know, letting her go would change my life in ways I never expected. The morning after I told her I would set her free, I woke up to the sound of our house feeling emptier than ever before. It was strange how quickly silence could invade a home that once echoed with laughter, arguments, children's footsteps, and the little daily noises of life. She moved through the rooms like a guest, distant and polite, already detached from the walls we had painted together and the furniture we had chosen in excitement years ago. I noticed how she lingered less in the kitchen where she once loved to bake, how she avoided family dinners, how she spent more time on her laptop searching for tickets, fellow dreamers, and opportunities that didn't include me. The woman who used to curl up next to me on the couch while we watched movies was now spending her evenings on video calls, talking to people I didn't know, planning a future that had no space for the man she had once promised forever. And I'll be honest with you, I felt invisible in my own home, like a shadow of the husband I once was. But here's where the twist of life hit me. Instead of drowning in bitterness, I found myself slowly rediscovering the person I had been before marriage, before responsibility buried me. I started waking up earlier, going for long walks at dawn when the world was still quiet, and for the first time in years, I listened to my own thoughts instead of rushing to fix everything for everyone else. One morning, as I walked through the park near our house, I passed by an old basketball court where I used to play in college. The hoops were rusty, the paint faded, but the memories came rushing back. The nights I spent chasing dreams of being more than just another man in the crowd, the ambitions I had set aside when life demanded stability over passion. I realized that somewhere along the way, in trying to be the perfect husband and father, I had stopped being myself. Maybe that was part of the reason she saw me as someone holding her back. Not because I wasn't supportive, but because I had forgotten my own fire, my own individuality, and instead became a safety net she no longer wanted. That realization was painful, but it was also liberating. I went back home that day with a quiet determination. While she filled boxes with her belongings, I started filling notebooks with ideas, dreams, and goals I had once shelved. She noticed the change. One evening, as she sat on the floor folding clothes, she glanced at me scribbling in my journal and asked softly, "What are you writing?" I looked at her and smiled faintly. "I'm writing my way back to myself." She didn't respond, but I saw the flicker in her eyes, the recognition that perhaps she wasn't leaving a broken man but someone who was finally waking up. The day she left was both devastating and strangely peaceful. She hugged the children tightly, kissed their foreheads, promised she would visit and call. When it came time to say goodbye to me, we stood awkwardly at the doorway. There were no tears, no dramatic scenes, just a quiet acknowledgement of an ending. "Take care of yourself," she whispered. I nodded and replied, "Chase your dreams." And with that, she walked away, luggage rolling behind her, leaving me standing in the frame of a life we had built together. But here's the part nobody tells you: when someone leaves, it doesn't always destroy you. Sometimes, it sets you free in ways you couldn't have imagined. In the weeks that followed, I poured myself into rebuilding not just my routines, but my identity. I started going to the gym again, cooking meals I enjoyed, reconnecting with old friends I had lost touch with, and most importantly, spending more intentional time with my kids. At night, when they asked about Mom, I didn't paint her as the villain. I told them, "She's chasing her dreams, and one day you'll chase yours too. But don't ever forget, you can chase dreams and still love the people who matter." They nodded, maybe too young to fully understand, but I knew those words would stay with them. And slowly, I realized that the pain of losing her was being replaced by the joy of finding myself again. What I didn't know then was that life was preparing me for a moment of truth, a moment when our paths would cross again, and everything would come full circle in a way I could never have predicted. But when she used the words "holding me back from my dreams," it cut deeper than anything I had ever heard from her in all our 12 years together. Dreams. Weren't we supposed to be each other's dream? Weren't we supposed to be the team that built something beautiful together? For nights, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, hearing her words echo in my ears like a haunting refrain. I began to question every sacrifice I had made, every late night working double shifts, every birthday gift I couldn't afford but made up for with love and presence. Did none of it matter to her? And then came the moment I knew I had to make a choice, not for me, but for her. She sat me down one evening, eyes tired yet glowing with that desperate hunger for something more, and I felt my heart break as I realized she truly believed she was trapped in the life we had built together. So, I smiled through my pain, held her hands in mine, and said the words I never thought would come out of my mouth: "If you feel like I'm holding you back, then I'll set you free." Her eyes widened, as if she couldn't believe I meant it, and for the first time in years, I saw genuine tears in them. Tears not of sadness, but of confusion, of release, of realization. That night, we didn't argue, we didn't scream. We simply sat there in silence, two people who had built a life together but now stood on the edge of watching it all crumble. And as much as it tore me apart inside, I told myself that sometimes, the greatest act of love is letting someone go to chase the life they think they deserve, even if it means losing them forever. The days that followed were some of the longest of my life. Imagine waking up every morning to the sound of silence where laughter used to be, to the absence of warmth where a partner's presence once filled the air. She still lived in the house for a while, packing her things bit by bit, but it was as if an invisible wall had already been built between us. I watched her go through her old boxes, touching dresses she had once worn to our anniversaries, shoes she had picked with me on cheap but joyful trips to the market, photos of us that captured moments of genuine happiness. She smiled at some of them, but I could see that smile wasn't about remembering love, it was about remembering what she was leaving behind. I tried not to stop her, tried not to beg her to change her mind, because hadn't I promised her freedom? But inside, every fiber of me was screaming. I wanted to tell her, "Don't you see? These dreams of yours, they were always ours. We were supposed to chase them together." Yet, every time I opened my mouth, the words got stuck in my throat. There were moments that tested me in ways I never thought possible. One night, I walked into the kitchen and found her humming softly, cooking her favorite dish, one she hadn't made in years. For a moment, it felt like old times, as though the weight of separation hadn't been placed on us yet. I stood there in the doorway, hoping, praying that she would look up at me and say, "I can't leave. I love you too much." Instead, she plated the food, looked at me with quiet sadness, and said, "I made this for you. Maybe one last time." My heart clenched. I forced a smile, thanked her, and we ate together, two strangers sharing the last supper of a marriage that once felt unbreakable. Everywhere I went, I carried the weight of her absence, even before she left. Friends noticed the change in me, my silence, my lack of laughter, the way I stared off into nothing while they talked. They'd ask, "Is everything okay at home?" and I'd shrug, offering half-hearted excuses. How could I explain to anyone that the woman I loved more than life itself didn't see me as a partner anymore, but as an anchor weighing her down? Nights became unbearable. I lay awake, sometimes clutching her pillow just to smell the faint trace of her perfume, wondering what she was dreaming of. Was she dreaming of a life without me? Was she imagining herself in a city far away, building a career or chasing passions that didn't involve me at all? One morning, I walked past the mirror and barely recognized myself. My eyes were sunken, my face drawn. And I looked like a man haunted by ghosts of a love still alive but already buried. And then it hit me, I couldn't live in this limbo forever. She deserved to pursue whatever her heart longed for, but didn't I also deserve peace? Didn't I deserve to start healing instead of tearing myself apart every day? That's when I made the decision to stop waiting for her to say goodbye. I decided that I would be the one to open the door, to give her the freedom she thought she wanted, even if it shattered me completely. The morning she finally left is burned into my memory like a scar that will never fade. The sky was gray, the air heavy with an eerie stillness, as if even the universe knew something final was about to happen. I helped her carry her last suitcase to the car, though every step felt like I was dragging my own heart across shards of glass. She didn't say much. Just polite, almost formal words, as though we were two colleagues parting ways after a long project rather than husband and wife after 12 years of shared life. Before she closed the car door, she looked at me for a second, and I swear, I saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes, a silent question, "Am I doing the right thing?" But just as quickly as it came, it vanished, replaced by resolve. She whispered, "Thank you for letting me go," and drove off. I stood there long after the car disappeared, holding nothing but silence in my hands. That night, the house felt like a museum of memories. Every corner echoed with her laughter, every shadow reminded me of her presence. I poured myself a drink, sat on the couch, and thought about the irony of it all. For years, I thought I was her shield, her partner, her support, but in her eyes, I had become her cage. And in my desperate attempt to prove my love, I had given her the very freedom that meant losing her forever. It was the cruelest test of love I could imagine, setting someone free even when you knew they might never return. Weeks passed, and slowly, I began to notice something changing inside me. The pain was still there, sharp and merciless, but beneath it, a strange calm was taking root. For the first time in years, I started asking myself, what about my dreams? I had spent so long bending, adjusting, sacrificing, that I'd forgotten I was more than just her husband. I was a man with his own passions, his own hopes, his own fire. Her leaving shattered me, yes, but it also stripped me bare, forcing me to confront the truth. I had been holding myself back too. In giving her wings, I realized I still had my own. One evening, while cleaning up old papers, I found a journal I had abandoned years ago. Inside were sketches, business ideas, stories I once wanted to write but never dared to finish. I sat there for hours, flipping through those forgotten dreams, and for the first time since she left, I felt a spark of life. It hit me then, maybe this wasn't just the end of a marriage, it was the beginning of something new for me. Maybe I wasn't meant to keep living in the shadow of what I lost, but to step into the light of what I could still build. And so, I made a promise to myself that night. I would stop seeing myself as the man she left behind and start seeing myself as the man I was becoming. She thought I was holding her back, but in reality, both of us had been stuck. Now, she was chasing her dreams, and I was finally ready to chase mine. Life had torn me apart, yes, but it also handed me the chance to rebuild from the ashes. And that's what I want you, the person listening right now, to take away. Sometimes, love doesn't end the way we want, sometimes people leave, but their leaving doesn't mean your story is over. It might just be the painful beginning of your greatest chapter. So, if you've ever felt broken, abandoned, or left behind, remember this: your life, your dreams, your fire still matter. Don't bury them under someone else's choices. Stand up, set yourself free, and live for the person staring back at you in the mirror. Because at the end of the day, sometimes the greatest act of love you can give to others and to yourself is the courage to let go. Sparkles, and if this story touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because out there, someone else might need this reminder too.